and welcome to Screen Junkies Universe. It's Wednesday. You know what that means? It's Wednesday, and half the week is over. Doesn't everybody always make a thing? Hey, it's Wednesday.
There are 2 days
offices
left, and we have already worked 2.
Yes, but I feel like it's always a thing in every office. It's Wednesday. Yeah. So, I'm Roth Cornet.
We've already taught the audience so much already.
Spencer Gilbert, Mr. Billy Business,
What's
Mr.
up?
Dan Murrell.
It's my fault that we're late, and I apologize.
No, it's fine. Dan's moving, so that's
I'm
a
moving.
lot.
To get the keys is a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's
It
a lot of
takes a while.
stress.
It's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things to move. It's
a lot of
things. We
Does
congratulate
Soledad
them.
O'Brien do that when she has to do the news, Dan? Does Jake Tapper? Does other journalists help me out here?
Other
I think Jake
news
Tapper has
people.
people that can go get the keys
Yeah.
for him. I don't think Jake Tapper has to go pick up the keys.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got humans to do that for him, or robots, depending on your point of view. Hey, can The Rock save Suicide Squad 2? We're going to ask that question today. We're going to talk about Paramount and their money and how that actually may ultimately change their content. And then we're going to talk about the Dark Universe.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
The darkest.
That's the whole story about the Dark
We're gonna pour one
Universe
out
right
for the
there. Like, so it'll be quick. Let's talk about The Rock. So The Wrap is reporting that Black Adam might be introduced in Suicide Squad 2. So The Rock is obviously playing Black Adam in Shazam. That's been announced now for how many years? I think it's like 3 or
Many years.
More
Many
than,
years.
than 3.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. This was like way back when, like before Man of Steel, I feel like. Was
I
it?
remember
It was a long
writing
time
this
ago.
news story up. I do, because there was a typo in the article where it autocorrected to atom, as in atoms, and I took a lot of crap for that, internet. I really did. But it was an autocorrect. It was not me. In any event, it's been a long time, and so he may be introduced in Suicide Squad 2, and the idea is that the gang is going to be looking for a weapon of mass destruction. What is that weapon? Why, it's The Rock himself, Black Adam. So...
I
don't know, man.
The charisma on that movie is going to be off the charts. You got Will Smith and The Rock.
That
and
actually
Margot
is-
Robbie.
that's pretty high charisma.
That is high. That's a lot of charisma.
I don't know. They're really stretching my love for The Rock to the limit by putting him in a Suicide Squad movie. Who's making it? It's not David Ayer, right? Who's making this one?
No.
Okay, well, whatever. Unless it's... I'm just going to look it up in my imaginary life. This laptop isn't even plugged in. Yeah, I don't know. I think to me it'd be funniest if he's not the bad guy. They just use him like they use the Joker, and he's just in this weird side relationship with Katana.
You're suggesting more of how we use the Joker? I didn't make
Like,
the
look,
movie.
again, like you're Black Adam, like a world-ending weapon. Why are you sending the guy with the boomerang and the guy who can shoot a gun accurately?
I mean, that's a problem that Suicide Squad is going to have. Similar to like after the first Avengers movie, the question was always like, how are they going to explain why you don't call the other Avengers? In Suicide Squad, it's always going to be like, why would you not call the Justice League to handle this? A far more qualified team that does not necessarily have ulterior motives.
Can I just add something here? Gavin, I didn't remember this, so I apologize. Gavin O'Connor is directing Suicide Squad 2. I don't know if you guys love Warrior the way that I do. It's a great movie. I love that movie. And I think Gavin O'Connor's a really good director.
Yeah, The Accountant was a bit of a mishmash.
Very well.
But that's not...
Okay, who's writing it is the real question, because that script was...
No, we'll see.
Well, it's got multiple
The
writers,
Suicide
as
Squad.
all
Yeah,
things
of
do.
course.
Gavin's one of them.
So far.
And then there's going to be ghost writers and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's being written by committee like all of these franchise films are. But The Rock and the crew, do you think there is this common belief, and we'll get to how Billy has things to say about this, that The Rock is franchise Viagra. So do you think that he is going to be the thing to...
I mean, listen. Okay. For me, personally, he couldn't make it worse. And I'm thinking of my own personal belief. So, sure, let's give it a shot. Like I said, Will Smith, The Rock, 2 really fun movie stars. Margot Robbie was, along with Will Smith, I thought the best part of the movie. She's going to be back. Who knows what's going on with Leto's Joker? I suspect he might not be in this movie. I don't know. We'll see. But why not? they're gonna make it anyway.
Sure, right.
Why not put somebody in it that's really?
I feel like this was the pitch in the room.
I mean,
we're gonna make this movie.
They're gonna make it, so yeah. I mean, that's a Baywatch. I think suffered because The Rock wasn't in it enough.
As do all things.
As do all things, and it's like the Rock can do wrong, but I mean, I don't know. It's sure, why not? Let's give it a shot.
Well, here we go. We're gonna correct a misconception, you guys, with data.
Brent Spiner?
Yeah.
It's more just like thinking it through, because one of the things that really bothers me is hyperbole. It's the worst thing in the world, and I hate that people. I hate that people say that The Rock can save a franchise, because he really doesn't do that. So I looked through his filmography and I wrote down any sequel or franchise that he has been a part of. I just want to go through these real quick.
Sure.
Mummy Returns, Scorpion King. So after that, we got Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Did not reinvigorate the Mummy at all. And then we got really shitty Mummy a couple of years, or not even a couple.
How do you remember the name Tomb of the Dragon Emperor?
Because I remember I was dragged to that movie by a friend, and we are no longer friends. It's not because of that movie, but I'm just trying to think it wasn't too long after that, actually.
The Dragon Emperor cost me a friendship.
Be Cool, that didn't really reinvigorate anything at all. G.I. Joe Retaliation, how many G.I. Joe movies have you seen since then? Jumanji had one movie, and it was in itself successful. So you can't, even if this one turns out to be a monster hit, you can't be like, The Rock reinvigorated Jumanji.
Well, I don't think the Viagra thing is referring to the post come down of the Rock movie. It's referring to the movie that the Rock is in.
But here's the thing. Even look at Fast Five. People tend to neglect the fact that they already started to right the ship with Fast and Furious 4. The big problem that they really started to fix was bringing back the original cast. You also have to credit Fast Five. I do give The Rock credit for Fast Five, but you also have to credit that they completely changed the genre.
Yeah.
They changed what type of movie it was.
See, I feel like there's a logical fallacy in your argument here, Billy.
Of course.
The franchise Viagra is not referring to every sequel that The Rock was in. What they're referring to is that The Rock comes to a franchise, and that movie is and performs better than the previous one. Fast Five, quality-wise, maybe with Fast and Furious 4, they had righted the ship. However,
oh no, Fast Five's better. That's a fact.
The box office for that movie was not conducive to what the Fast and Furious franchise became, starting with Fast Five, and I think The Rock was a big part of that. G.I. Joe Retaliation, again, the first G.I. Joe movie, god-awful. The Rock came into that sequel and made it the kind of, and I saw G.I. Joe Retaliation. I didn't hate it. Why? Because The Rock came in and made it the kind of fun action movie that the first one could have been. So when they say franchise Viagra, I don't think they mean every franchise The Rock goes on into. It's just that if there's a dying franchise, it has worked in the past. You inject a little bit of The Rock in there and you give it some new life. I think that's where the franchise Viagra thing comes from. The Mummy didn't need to be re-energized because that was only the second movie and the first one was great. The second movie wasn't good. The Rock was in it for 10 minutes. They did that to set up the Scorpion King movie. And yeah, Be Cool. Get Shorty's a great movie. Of course you're not gonna. I saw Be Cool. I didn't remember The Rock was in it, and that was the 18th worst thing about that movie. That movie was awful. It didn't have anything to do with The Rock. So I think that's where the franchise Viagra.
I just also think that not you personally, but the general you kind of overestimates the value of The Rock. And I'm a Rock fan. I like The Rock. I think he's very charming. But every time that they tried to build a franchise around this guy, it's usually terrible. It's like Doom, Baywatch, Southland Tales, Get Smart.
Are we forgetting Hercules?
Hercules. No. There's some terrible franchises that they try to build around this guy. I don't think Suicide Squad 2 is really going to be hurt or be helped by The Rock. It's just going to be there.
I don't know. Because what The Rock and Will Smith have in common, yes, they are incredibly charming, but they also know exactly what movie they're in. Now, Will Smith happened to be in a movie that was different than most of the rest of the cast of Suicide Squad, but his was the movie I wanted to watch, frankly. And The Rock also knows how to do that in the sense, I remember, and you know who they have this in common with? None other than the greatest non-actual fighter action star of all time. And you know who that is? It's Kurt Russell. I've said this so many times. It's Kurt Russell. But this is what they have in common, is that I remember talking to him about action movies and how to do them and doing one-liners. And he was like, you have to always, The Rock, for one of the fasts. And he was like, you always have to kind of be having a good time underneath it and laughing. You know, like you're delivering it and you mean it, but the intention there is that it's a fun, joyful thing to watch and experience. And I feel like he really gets that. I feel like Will Smith really gets that they carry that with them. Kurt Russell really got that when he was delivering one-liners. There's a number of other action stars that do, but some people don't. And we won't have to name names, but some people don't, you know, like they just don't know how to do that. And so when The Rock entered, it became a much more fun movie to watch because it wasn't a movie that was taking itself too seriously when he came into Fast Five. And I feel like that could happen with him and Will Smith and Margot Robbie here with Suicide Squad 2.
I'm not saying it's going to be great. I'm just saying I don't
You're
think
just
it'll
saying
be
it will
worse.
exist.
Yeah.
I have no faith in and I think we're doing a video, it's coming out soon, and part of it was I had to write a one-page summary of the plot of the first Suicide Squad movie, which, by the way, when I saw Suicide Squad in the theater, I had just recently seen Batman v Superman, so my litmus test was, well, I didn't hate it as much as Batman v Superman, so having to watch it again, like last weekend, and then also write down what I think it's about, I have such hatred towards that movie right now.
What is it about?
I don't know. Like I literally like halfway through I was like, and then this happened. I'm not sure why. And then I rewound it a little bit. I was like, maybe I wasn't paying attention. It's like, no, shit just happens because it does. It has to.
Spencer, how would you?
Your summary is the best I've ever
Well,
seen.
no, I've been thinking about it. It's about income inequality and the prison industrial complex. So when Diablo fights the Enchantress, it's really talking about minimum mandatory sentencing. Ava DuVernay made a really good documentary about Suicide Squad. It's called 13. You guys should check it out.
I think
so disrespectful to 13.
I've gotten trying to trick people into watching it.
I suspect that the movie Justice League will be the end of the current state of the DC movies. I think that that's going to be used as an opportunity to start fresh in a way that Marvel kind of did after Age of Ultron. So I don't know, until I start seeing one or two of these movies that come out after Justice League, I have a feeling that so many of the things that people had issues with might be shuffled aside. It's a suspicion. I don't know. So we'll see.
Do you want to make the Superman bet?
We're going to make a Superman bet. I just want to end on this thought, is that after he somehow defeats the combined powers of all of the Suicide Squad, then he has to go fight Zach Levi. So no pressure, Zach Levi. The Superman bet is this: how long will Superman actually be in Justice League? The closest screen time. The person that loses has to come and dress as Superman, and the person that wins has to also be. I mean, you get to be Superman, so I feel like it's the same.
I think the person that wins gets to be Superman.
Okay, so what does the loser do?
You have to be
They
Jared
only
Leto's
get to wear
Joker.
Superman's 90s mullet.
Okay, they have to wear a mullet.
Yeah.
And then they have to do a creative dance, interpretive dance to represent kryptonite.
I don't know if I'd agree to that.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't agree to those terms.
Chair dance, kryptonite.
I will not be part of this bet.
Yes, you are.
Just the mullet. We're just doing the mullet thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I think he will be in the movie for 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
I said 7:50 before we.
Well, if it's
That's
anything
messed
over
up.
that, then
That's
you're
so
in good
messed
shape.
up.
It's a 2-hour movie. Screen time. Henry Cavill screen time or Superman screen time?
What's the difference?
Ooh, he means
Is he playing Clark Kent? I don't want any of
Clark
these-
Kent too? Clark Kent
any of
included.
Henry Cavill.
Okay.
Total, yeah.
All right.
In a 2-hour movie, I'm going to say 14 minutes and 45 seconds.
You guys
my
are
guess.
messed up right now.
I'm going to say 11 minutes 48 seconds.
All right.
All right.
I'm gonna be the Hal here.
Are you going to price us right us?
I'm gonna say 16 minutes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Fair.
All right. There you
16 minutes. All right, those are our bets. You know what else we're betting? Paramount's in trouble. We're not betting that. That's a fact.
Short the stock.
That's a fact. So Paramount has lost a very crucial financing deal.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yes.
Numbers.
I pitched this Time to eat your veggies. This is one of those industry stories that people like. It looks like a financial story, but it's actually a really important industry story. Basically, Paramount had a deal with this Chinese media group called, and I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce it right. It's HUA, so I'm going to say Hua Hua.
Have your phone say it.
But I'm sure that it's probably different. Anyway, basically, Brad Gray, who was the head of Paramount, who passed away earlier this year, had brokered this 3-year deal. They said it's worth over $1 billion for this media company to finance 25% of their film slate through the next 3 years, which is this is a massive investment.
Chunk, yeah.
And what happened yesterday essentially is that there's a combination of things. Number one, in general, and this has been a kind of a story industry-wide, China has been scaling back their foreign investments. They've been investing more in China and less in the United States. So as a consequence of that, and also there's some reports, I know Variety reported it back in August, that Huawei Media was not happy with the deal because this summer, Baywatch, not just the summer, Ghost in the Shell, Transformers: The Last Night, these were all massive productions from Paramount that did not perform either as expected or just outright bombed. I was looking at this. You could argue that the last like actual smash hit that Paramount had was Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation back in 2015. Wow. There have been some movies that have made money that have broken even, but I'm talking about like actual like this is an unqualified hit. So Paramount's been on hard times, and essentially Viacom executives.
Weren't they like 6% of the total box office?
Right now Paramount has less than 5% share of the box office market. That's by far the lowest of any of the major studios. Viacom had flown to China in August to meet with this company. Apparently they were losing tens of millions of dollars in this investment. They weren't happy. Yesterday the deal fell through. What does that mean? Essentially, Paramount has now lost 25% of their funding for their slate for movies. Viacom says they're going to post a $59 million net loss for this quarter due to this deal falling through. But in the bigger picture, just kind of looking at where Paramount's funding is now, and from the reporting that's been done by Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, a lot of people were covering the story, but basically they have partners for their big movies. Hasbro is a big partner of Paramount's. They're helping to co-finance the Transformers movies, that whole thing. Skydance is a big partner of Paramount's. They're financing the bigger ones. Right now, it's reported that Paramount has no third-party financing for any of their smaller, more modestly budgeted movies. So that's a movie like Mother or Suburbicon, which, by the way,
Mother
even
was
though
$30 million.
Mother was $30 million.
Pretty,
but to them, that's a small budget.
It's a small budget. It's just a big budget for a movie. That's the whole other talk, but that's a really sizable budget for a movie like that.
And even those movies, Mother, Suburbicon was another one that had a budget about the same, have not been, even their small budgeted movies have not been performing, have been losing money. And so Paramount's kind of spinning it as, this is a chance for us to restructure our system. What they're saying is that means fewer big, huge budget movies, more modestly budgeted movies. But the reality of that, according to reporting, is that they don't have co-financing on those movies right now. So that's going to be the question going forward is, does Paramount double down and go with the movies that they have co-financing for? Or do you see them actually scale back and invest in more modestly budgeted films? Either way, Paramount is, we talked about the Fox story earlier this week. Now Paramount is in serious financial trouble. Like, this is the kind of environment you see when you see mergers, acquisitions, studios buying each other. I mean, in every industry, when one airline's failing, a bigger airline comes in and buys them. This is the situation that we're in, and Paramount took a huge blow yesterday. That's a lot of money gone, and we'll see what the ramifications are moving forward.
We talked about this yesterday a little bit, just in the office, and saying like, wow, isn't that interesting? I wonder who they would even try to sell to, because for Disney, the Fox deal, which is reportedly, they were in talks and now they're not. Already dead, supposedly. We'll see. It makes a lot more sense for them to buy Fox than Paramount. I mean, because really, what does Paramount have necessarily that they
nothing with
need,
their brands,
right?
Transformers, Ninja Turtles, all of those movies. Things
that Disney kind of like markets that Disney already is winning in, so it doesn't really matter. And so it's curious. I can say what I hope happens.
Yes.
I hope that they do what they said they would do, and that we see a resurgence of a modest to moderately budgeted film because we'll have the opportunity to see a lot more interesting films. However, I feel like Suburbicon and Mother, those two I'm not saying the movies aren't good, Mother fans, but relative financial failures might cause some concern. But my real hope, because we don't have enough of that. We just don't. We don't have enough interesting movies out there. I'm glad Mother was made because it was different.
Yeah.
That's what I hope happens. What do you think will happen?
Suburbicon's supposed to suck, right?
Yeah, Suburbicon did not get good reviews.
Not good at all.
I don't know. Just looking back on their slate, like, have they made a good movie in the last couple of years?
This is their slate for this year. Well, as far as disappointments, Monster Trucks, Transformers 5, Baywatch, Ghost in the Shell, Suburbicon, Mother. These are all movies that they released.
I mean, you got to look at the whole picture, but like they're making terrible films and no one's going to see them.
Yeah.
So, I look forward to when they're bought by Snapchat and everything is happening 6 seconds at a time.
Sorry, they didn't do King Arthur. I got that mixed up.
Okay.
That was Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they'll definitely get acquired by
can
like
afford a loss.
Pets.com or like or Apple or whatever.
Are we talking about movies made for pets? Is that what we're suggesting?
We could be.
Something interesting that I was looking up today, though, if you recall, the first two Iron Man movies have Paramount logos in front of them. The reason why is that Paramount had a deal with Marvel that they would handle distribution for those movies, for which they got 8 to 9% of the profits. They sold that right for $115 million, which at the time they were doing well, and that gave Disney Marvel full control. If you look at what 8 to 9% of the profits worldwide from those movies would be now, maybe not the best move for Paramount to have sold those rights. At the time, it looked like a great deal, but that just shows you how your fortunes can change.
Yeah.
They were kind of on top. They had Transformers. I think Ninja Turtles had come out. That movie did great. They had Mission Impossible, which they still have, but Paramount's fallen on tough times. Daddy's Home 2 and Downsizing, the new Alexander Payne movie, the only two major releases left.
And though Downsizing looks, and I really like Alexander Payne, and Downsizing looks really interesting to me, I don't foresee that as being a massive financial hit. It could be a surprise. You never know.
You never know.
I mean,
my question, and I really want your opinion on this, is if they were to kind of shift their strategy and go to some of these smaller budget, take a little bit more risk with like a $20-30 million movie, does that really fit with kind of the shifting paradigms of just viewer habits? I feel like, are people going to go out to a theater to see a movie that kind of, I feel like people now kind of watch I'll wait for Netflix or I'll watch it.
Get Out was made on a budget of $5 million.
And that's a low budget. I think you're talking about the middle, which we have been talking about, has been scooped out of the film industry, where it's, above 10 million but below 70, let's say. Like that used to have, there used to be movies like that every single weekend. There was just like, let's get 2 stars and like a weird spec script that we found, and like, he found a mermaid on the beach and now he's in love with it. Or like, they don't make movies like that anymore.
Because there's so much risk.
Excuse me, Splash fans.
When you speak of Daryl Hannah, do so with respect. Look, yes, our viewer habits, but also if you think about the film industry typically, right? Whenever you're chasing, right now they're chasing VOD, right? They're like, how do we keep people in the theaters? And it's all of these eventized films, and it's working. And probably the theatrical experience is going to change. And we've talked about this a lot and become more and more rarefied. It looks like that's how it's going. However, think about things like, CinemaScope and like, we have to TVs out. How are we going to keep people in the theaters? And there's always been periods of time where you see big events in the theatrical experience to try to keep people in there. And then there's a period of time of far more, not necessarily more interesting or better films, but more experimental films. Then you get the 70s, and then you get a whole other wave of cinema. And I hope, I don't know, that we would go into something like that again.
But I feel like that wave is kind of happening in a different medium.
It's happening in television. It's happening in television. That's where the real character stories are happening, for the most part.
It does appear to be a juncture for Paramount, though.
Yeah.
This is kind of what we're talking about, is, and not even just collapse, of just like strategy, is they invested so heavily in all of their global franchises, not knowing they essentially, all of them collapsed at once. The Ninja Turtle sequel didn't do well. The new Transformers didn't do well. Mission Impossible 6, at this point, who knows? All the surefire hits, almost all of them have kind of, other than Marvel and Star Wars, it's a mixed bag. So it's gonna be really interesting to follow this and see what Paramount does. Are they just going to double down and hope that their big franchises hit again, that Bumblebee reinvigorates Transformers, that everything else that they've been doing is going to do the big global numbers? Or are they actually going to kind of tighten their belts and say, let's look for things that we think will be more interesting movies that we can make for a smaller amount of money? But either way, like I said, I know this seems like a boring money story.
It does, though.
It seems like a boring money story.
Interesting story.
But it will vastly impact the strategies and the movies that the studio releases, and potentially the future of this studio. So.
My fear, as we've been talking about these things over the last couple of weeks, is that we do get something like The Air. I mean, we're already close to that, but you do get something where competition is so limited and there's even fewer studios than we currently have. And I just, that would be so terrible for movies. That would just be horrible for any possibility of us seeing things that are surprise movies, right? Like things that really can change your life. There's my hyperbole for the day. You know what else will change your life? Becoming a mummy.
Yep.
That's true.
Big change.
So, and actually, you know how I should have done that is speaking of franchises that have failed.
Yeah, right.
The Mummy, R.I.P. to the dark universe. Billy, are you sad?
I'm heartbroken. Yeah, so basically, I think it was yesterday via the Hollywood Reporter, Alex Kurtzman, Chris Morgan, they were kind of hired to be the architects of this vast dark universe of different monsters. They had this beautiful little cast photo of everything that was coming. Literally one of those happened, and none of the rest seemed to be kind of on the slate anymore. Kurtzman, he's right now doing Star Trek Discovery, which is yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
executive producer. So he's just like giving notes from Diamond Zeppelin.
He actually directed a couple.
Yeah, I think he directed the first one. I have to go back. I'm still catching up.
It's
a bit
different
of a task for me.
Yeah, I'm like 2 behind. It's a little.
It's different.
It's a little out there.
I'm just still picturing a Diamond Zeppelin.
And Morgan is going to apparently be writing the spinoff for Dwayne Johnson and what's his name?
Jason Statham.
Jason Statham for Fast and Furious.
That. Yeah.
So
he writes all the Fast movies.
Right. So they're kind of moving away from this. I know you've said it before. We've all said it before. It goes to show like the absolute hubris of announcing your grand vision and grand plan without even seeing how one of them did.
Yeah, you can't do it backwards. Marvel and even the Marvel movies and even Star Wars, like they took it one movie at a time and slowly broadened it out and broadened it out and broadened it out. And then if you didn't see The Mummy, I want to trade lives with you. But The Mummy, it was just like, they started with like, you're part of a larger world. Don't pay attention to this first movie you're in.
Freaky Friday this bitch, because I haven't seen The Mummy and I'll take your life, man. You got a great life. I'll take him up on it.
Does someone have a cursed disease paw or something? How does that work?
1, 2,
2, 3.
Ooh, I'm that's all.
Why did Ross sound like Calvin Candy from
like emo Phillips? I don't know how to do an impersonation. I'll work on that.
Good.
I mean, contrary to what you may think, I didn't want the monster universe to suck. I thought if any of these franchises really worked, this would be the one that I would actually probably be most interested in, because I always loved those classic Universal ones. So seeing The Mummy, which I'll take full responsibility for myself. I saw it like after it was out on Blu-ray, and I was warned a lot, and I still watched it. And I was
post-honest trailer.
Post-honest trailer, I watched
Billy.
it. I did not heed the advice of the honest trailer, but
yeah, that one was a soul crusher.
That was tough.
You know, sometimes where it's just like there's a movie that you know is a bad movie, but you're like, I can't explain why I like this. I know it's bad.
Sure,
I was hoping maybe that would be the case, and it wasn't.
I've been on several times. I've thought I should just take my medicine and watch this just so I know. You know, and each time I do not do that. I do not make that choice. So I think I make good choices.
Do you know those things where it's like the average face of every person in America, or like the averaged out like look of someone in China or whatever? It's like the average PG-13 film from 2012 to 2017. Like it's just the perfect meaningless pablum middle of every movie you've ever seen. The movie is trying everything and nothing.
Yeah,
it's like this.
That is the best pull quote that I've ever heard for a
on the
movie.
Blu-ray.
Quote, it's quote everything and nothing.
It's a montage of everything.
It is a
Nothing
montage
at all.
of other movies just kind of vaguely stitched together with Tom Cruise, but not even like.
Why
the
is
Tom
he making me want to see it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Dan did that to me with Book of Henry. You know, I
like-
saw Book of Henry because you matrixed me. You're like, I can't tell you what it's about. You
It's
have
true.
to experience it.
You do. I can't, and you do. But this is how these two stories, though, this is how they connect. Because I feel like if this was 5 years ago, Paramount or Universal would have said, well, you know, we could have done better, whatever, we're doing it anyway. And they would have forged ahead. And we live in a new world where you're seeing now these things that are the sure. Oh, don't worry about it. It's a surefire hit. We have big name stars. We'll make it, and people will go see it. I think this is the smartest business move that Universal has made, or any studio has made in a long time, because I think they were able to recognize, oh wait, people won't just go see everything if we spend $200 million on it, because that was true. It used to be if the studio spent $200 million on it, people would go see it, and then. The Lone Ranger, I think, was one of the first canaries in the coal mine where people were like, yeah, no, this should make $500 million, but we're not going to go.
No one's going to go see it.
No one's going to go see it.
Yeah.
And I think this is a reaction to the times that we live in, is Universal is kind of saying, like, maybe this wasn't a good idea, and instead of just forging ahead and wasting $1 billion, let's not do that.
You know who I feel bad for? Is Kurtzman, Alex Kurtzman, because he was. Hang on, he's a nice person.
I'm sure he is.
Who I would also trade lives with, but still.
I wouldn't. No,
Okay.
I'm sticking with Spencer Gilbert.
All right,
and I'll tell you why. Spencer Gilbert's on an upswing.
Hey.
Yeah. Like, your life's going places. You're not even there to where you're going to be yet. Alex Kurtzman, this guy, he came in and he was going to be part of Venom, and he was going to be part of the entire villain universe, and then he went over and he did this, the Dark Universe, and every single thing has fallen apart for him that he has tried to do in terms of taking. Yeah, it really is. Like,
well, not for him.
Right, for other people.
He
for
was
his
kind
employer.
of active in mapping out the destruction
No.
of these things.
I'm not saying that he isn't accountable, obviously, but although we don't know what that Venom would have been, we really have no idea.
One thing I do want to add from the Hollywood Reporter
So that
article
wasn't his fault. That was Mark Webb's fault.
that they did talk
Fight
about
Club.
was, so yes, the Dark Universe as it was originally conceived, it's dead. However, they have a couple different options that they're exploring. One of them is to offer it to certain filmmaker or producers. I think they mentioned Jason Blum in there, for kind of one-off movies not connected to a larger universe, which is A-okay with me.
Yeah, I mean, they still own the IPs
Sure,
of
for all of these.
Frankenstein and the
So
Wolfman
there's
and
there's
stuff.
the idea, of doing like just a Frankenstein movie, just a Wolfman.
But it's not going to be like, Frankenstein, you're part of a bigger world.
Well, here's the other thing. They also add that the other option is to just find new people who could just kind of retool and overhaul the universe.
I think we're at the end of universes.
I hope so.
I really do.
I hope so.
Because in more ways than one, kiss your loved ones. But I really do, because, like, other than Marvel, where has this worked in recent years? You know, where is this? Like, DC's not even going to be really doing this anymore. I think the idea of the monster-connected universe will not come back, and Marvel's just going to be like, yeah, it worked for us because this was our idea the whole time. You know,
Right.
like, in any event. And I hope that we just see better movies as a result.
I hope so.
I'm going to end today by saying this. Billy, we discovered before we shot today, because there's a delightful new Harry Potter game coming out that Spencer's very excited about. He'll tell you about it in a minute. But we discovered today that Billy is an elitist who hates Harry Potter.
That's
Throwing away the bus on the air. Tell the people how much you hate Harry Potter, Billy. Tell them.
100% untrue. I can't wait to support the further adventures of Harold Potter in the virtual reality
Potter.
plane. I love that it helps children connect with books and reading. And I think that Harry Potter fans are some of the nicest, most open-minded people that you're going to find.
Well, good. I'm glad,
I'm glad
our
we
conversation
cleared that
really
up.
changed him.
Yeah,
he's saying all the opposite things that he was before. That's good.
That's how change happens. You dialogue, and then and you just get people to say exactly what you want them to say.
No, Harry Potter's the worst. Harry Potter's the absolute worst.
Before we go to, can I talk about the reach of the show very quickly? Can I tell you the Amazon story?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because I got a bone to pick with you, Amazon.
Billy doesn't know this.
No.
I don't know if you remember on the show, I believe on Monday, but we were discussing Amazon buying the rights to the Lord of the Rings series.
Right.
And somebody said, if you could ask Jeff Bezos one question, what would it be? And I said, I would ask him why I can't get my bookshelf on time and if they can tell the courier how to figure out the leasing office in my building. I got a call yesterday from a customer representative at Amazon.
Oh, yeah. We big time.
Said that they had been sent our video and wanted to, number one, make sure that my bookshelf, which, by the way, that was just a random object. I had just ordered a shelf, and it is on track for delivery on time today, so thank you. But also to allow me to air my grievances about the third-party courier, which they did, and they have now deprioritized for delivery to my address. And they also were just like, oh, by the way, you also said you wanted to revisit Lawrence of Arabia, so we're going to send you a Blu-ray of Lawrence of Arabia. And then they're like, oh, and there's $100 in your account.
Okay.
Wow. So it just goes to show you, first of all, thank you, Amazon. You're very nice. And I even told them, I was like, I feel kind of bad because I was kind of making just an off-the-cuff smart-ass joke. And they call me and are just like, we really want to rectify your situation. So that was very nice of them, so thank you. I got an email that said that they were replying on behalf of Jeff Bezos, so thank you for that also. But yeah, it just goes to show you I need to be a little better about watching my mouth, because you never know who's watching.
Because you might actually get $100 in Blu-rays and free stuff.
But I'm not out here to get free stuff.
I am. Hey, Amazon. There's a long-time Prime member. Check my wish list, Amazon.
I want a drone to fly food into my mouth. I said I didn't see Lawrence of Arabia too.
I never asked.
I love Best Buy.
Yeah.
I love Blu-rays.
Yes.
I want TV surround sound.
Yes.
Best Buy is my favorite store. Best Buy.
And I would like to point out 3 things here. You are going to get the lesson that I take away from this, if Amazon was teaching me a lesson, is that you'll get more out of complaining than complimenting, because I've said on several videos that I am the #1 amalgam of the Amazon customer. I do everything on it. I have Prime. I watch movies on it.
Are you going to let them deliver inside your door?
I watch TV shows on it. I get my toilet paper. I read my books. And yet I don't have a $100 gift certificate, and I'm not being sent the movie that I also haven't seen.
This is ghoulish. I wanted to. It was a positive message about being nice and thanking them for being very kind, and now it's just all turned into you vultures asking for things.
And also, I want to say to Delta.
And another thing, Toyota, why'd you stop making the Supra? My car's not a Supra.
Yeah.
Let's get that
going.
Situated. Yeah.
Thank you, Amazon.
I just legitimately wanted to thank them for being very nice, and it was a lesson to me that that I should be not quite as flippant about what I say.
Or you should. You got stuff. I complimented them several times, and I got nothing.
But that wasn't my goal. I wasn't out to get free stuff.
Well,
they were just somebody. First of all, obviously somebody who works at Amazon is a fan of us, so thank you for watching. And forwarding our video on, and they didn't have to do
Dan,
that.
Just like
nice
Paramount, you should rethink your strategy here.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of lucrative complaining in your future.
Yeah.
Also, this is all very genuine, and we like to remain unbiased, but we will do the show from one of Jeff Bezos' boats. We'll just fly drone us in.
Yeah.
We'll do it from there.
What if we could just put on like weird Amazon backpacks that then a drone could attach to,
It's
and
coming.
then it could fly us to the yacht?
Do you want to be Inspector Gadget? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Don't you?
I do actually. That would be amazing.
Can you make that happen, Amazon? We love it.
Anyway, I just wanted that they were very nice about it, so thank you for that. And it was very. They didn't have to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Amazon, for nothing from the 3 of us, and for something from Dan. We appreciate it.
Can't you be happy for me?
I am happy for you. I am happy for you.
Billy can't.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so bitter right now.
I can normally have sympathetic joy, but in this case, you better be buying us a movie too.
Too late.
Money is spent. All right, we're happy for Dan. We're happy. Thank you, Amazon person who watched this. I assume it's Jeff. What up, Jeff? Good work with the company. Mr. Thank you guys for joining us today, and we will be here tomorrow talking about other things. Ooh, and we have a Murder on the Orient Express review coming up later today.
Yes, we do.
The Game Master will be here tomorrow. We haven't had an SJU game in a long time, so Lon, the Game Master, will be here tomorrow.
Ooh, so you can have games for us?
He will be bringing a specially crafted game.
Oh, awesome. Do they end in either one of us having to chop off an arm?
See you later, everybody.